Welcome to King's Cultural, where we explore culture from a biblical perspective. Today I'm joined by my friend Lance. Say hi, Lance.
Hey, everybody.
We're going to be answering a question that somebody submitted today. Let me pull it up over here. This comes from a young man named Dustin who's questioning his faith. He says, one of the biggest things, though, is the very nature of God and his so-called omnibenevolence, omnipotence, and omniscience. Like, if he's truly omnipotent, then he could have created a reality without suffering and pain and still have given us free will. If he could, but chose not to, he's not all-loving. If he can't, then he's not all-powerful. If he doesn't know how to, he's not all-knowing. Lance, how would you answer this? It's kind of a riddle, almost.
Good question. Yeah, you're right. It is kind of like a riddle because, you're talking about multiple attributes of God and how they intermingle, right? And so understanding all those things together are just naturally going to be kind of difficult. So I understand where the question is coming from. And his question is, you know, if he is these things, why didn't he create a universe where there could be free will without suffering? Um, And so I I think just with that being said, there is free will here without suffering in the sense of there are choices that we make that we have in front of us that don't bring suffering. I think what he's alluding to here is, sinful choices that bring forth suffering, which is important to mention. So I think it's good just to make that distinction from at the forefront is having free will doesn't mean that every choice you make is going to, induce suffering into our lives. If I want to become a plumber or I want to become, a nurse, I have the free will to do it. Of course, we commit all things to him and he guides our paths, but I don't think he'd be mad either way of which path we choose. One doesn't incur suffering because of the choice, right? I think that's important to mention at the beginning.
There's also the idea of how do you define suffering,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, could if I make a good choice, but someone else makes a better choice, am I suffering for that? Or if I'm given one cookie, but you're given two cookies, am I
Mhm.
suffering?
My son would say yes. He's suffering.
Exactly. So it depends on who you are.
Yeah. I mean, just to take it a step further and, not try to put words in his mouth, but maybe clarify it a little bit, is sinful choices that lead to, maybe God's chastisement or his wrath or suffering in that case, right? Um,
I like that.
so obviously that's, he didn't go that far, but let's assume for your viewer's sake that that's what he's talking about. I think it's important to recognize that free will necessarily means that you have the option to choose something different, right, than your creator. So that also includes sinful choices. So if God wants you to do something that's holy and good, for the creator to create man with free will, they have to have the option to not do good, right? And then there's consequences from that too. So I think fundamentally, it's just a misunderstanding of what free will is, because in this reality where God creates men with free will, air quote, but no suffering, it really just puts everyone in a robotic state where every choice you make is in line with the creator, right? It's not your own volition that you're choosing from. It's not your own will. It's basically just copy and paste of the will of the creator, which I think would be, a holy thought pattern, right? Um, but once again, it's a reality where free will can't exist then because it just isn't. You have to have the option to choose, and that means choosing the suffering option, right, or the sinful option as well. So, Ed, what do you think on that one?
I think the way that this riddle, because it is kind of like a riddle, is framed, you have to cave on one of these things. Is he all loving? Is he omnibenevolent? Is he omniscient?
Hmm.
Is he omnipresent? Or I'm gonna try and remember: omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Right? All
Hmm.
knowing, all loving, and all powerful.
Hmm.
You have to cave on one of these things for this sort of reality to make sense. For our
Hmm.
reality, is what he's saying. But I think if you were to, the question, has God the same in each reality? Because even if you go into like this multiversal theory, whatever, like a Marvel movie, God would still preside over each of these realities
Hmm.
because that's how God is. God is all powerful. God is above. God is the creator. There's not a different God in each dimension. It's God in each dimension.
Uh-huh.
And so we have to remember God presides over each reality. And this God doesn't change, like Malachi 3:6 says. We'll look at that one in another video. So this God would be the same in each reality. And this God has destined himself to suffer and die for sins. So regardless, there is going to be suffering and death. And his morality, because this God doesn't change, his morality and law wouldn't change in any reality. So no matter what, there would still be, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal.
Mm-hmm.
And God doesn't do these things. He legislates these things. He doesn't murder. He allows killing, and he judges justly. He does not commit adultery, but he tells us not to do these things. And so you go, okay, well, who's actually the one causing the suffering here? It's not God, it's me.
Uh-huh.
It's humankind. And you look, and number one, we can see that in the beginning, everything God created was good.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, man was created very good. And that free will we were given, it didn't cause suffering at first.
Uh-huh.
Right? God gave us free will to do whatever. He just said, do not eat from this tree.
Yeah. Adam
And
could
of
have pruned
course,
any tree in the garden, right? He got to choose which one he kept at that time.
right? Oh my gosh. I'd be like, hey,
None of it brought suffering.
none of it brought suffering except the one, right? God didn't bring that on us. He just gave us a choice because that's what free will does. It gives you a choice. Joshua says, choose this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And it spared him a lot of suffering. Genesis says that God created man and man was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So God didn't necessitate the suffering in that situation. We did. We created the suffering. And in addition, God is working up to this reality that you're talking about, where there is no suffering in essence, except for the suffering of one. Because all of our tears will be wiped away, all of our wounds will be taken away, all of our wrong will be taken away. And this day that suffering, there will be a day where suffering does not exist in this reality. And that's the day of the Lord. That's at that new kingdom, a new heavens and new earth and a new Jerusalem. So someday there will be that. We're working up to it. But I started this with that it's a riddle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so you want the short answer for, can God be, I'm going to look at the words again, omnipotent, omniscient, right? I got that right. And omnibenevolent, right? All loving, all knowing, all powerful. And really you gotta take one of these down. And I would say God is not all loving. And I have good reasons for that. I don't think God's all loving. God hates certain things. He abhors certain things. He calls certain things abominations to him. So you got to go, okay, well, maybe God's not all loving. God is love, but he is also wrath.
And
God is
I
not
would
all
say
loving.
that comes out from his love of who he is, right? Because he loves, he is wrathful. Like if someone hit my child, you better believe I'm going to
The
have
wrath,
some kind
there's
of
gonna be wrath.
level of wrath within me to protect that child, right?
Boy, it's like that Toby song. You go, try Jesus, but don't try me.
'Cause I throw hands.
Because I'll throw hands. Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Right? But sometimes love necessitates wrath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But also, God does not love certain things.
Mm-mm.
He's not
Right.
all loving.
Right.
He's not Cupid. It's not cute, you know? He hates sin. He hates those that do sin unrepentant. I don't know, where do you think? Where do you go from there?
Oh, he's angry at the wicked every day, right? So, I mean, that's definitely scripture. So, like recognizing um, God being all loving, meaning what you're talking about is like his actions to everything is a loving action, meaning pleasant to us, is what it sounds like. We would
Yeah.
obviously say, no, that's not right. But God is love, meaning that even his justice, his wrath, his mercy, his compassion, everything flows from and is reflected of that love, right?
It just might not be love to the person receiving the
It,
justice.
yes, oftentimes, yeah, the one who's receiving the justice does not feel love. Maybe because The love is coming because he loves the thing that was hurt, right? So if you murdered me, right, God in his love for me would take out his wrath on you. Is he being loving to you or loving to me? He's being loving to
Yeah.
me, right? But he's
He's
still
loving
acting
to
out
the
of love.
innocent.
Yeah. And I actually like this question that they pose at the end, because he's talking about creating this world where there is free will without suffering, right? He's like, why can't God do this with all these qualities? And listen to his question. He says, if he can and won't, he is not all loving. Okay, well, he can, and he did create a world with free will. That should say to this viewer that he is all loving in that sense. When we say all loving, we mean everything flows from love, not that he loves everything like the way we were talking about, just described a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
Then he
You
goes
have to
on to say,
reframe how you view that word, all
yes,
loving.
100%. If he can't, he is not omnipotent or all powerful. Well, I would say he can, right? He creates trees, right? And at his word, seasons come and seasons go, and he speaks to the sea and its boundary is there. Do they have a choice? Do they have a free will? Could he have created a world without free will? Yeah, he could have. So, according to this questioner, he is all powerful still. He is all loving and he is all powerful. Then he says, if he doesn't know how, he's not omniscient or all knowing. Well, I think he does know how. And so I understand what this questioner is saying. I think they have fundamentally a narrow view of what free will is. And also, I agree. I agree with most of his conclusions, minus the last one, because I feel like it doesn't really come from anywhere. But you know, he can and did create a universe with free will, which shows that he's loving. Love is something that is reciprocated and it's within fellowship. We talk about the triune God, right? God being love, he intermingles three in one. Love is expressed, received. And so the fact that he created free will allows us to genuinely, from our own conscience and our own choice, to truly say, I love you, Lord, and obey him. That's true love. Because if it was in the scenario where we were all just these robots that were just doing his own will, right? In the sense of we don't have that choice. What love is that if you don't have the choice to say no or yes? So it's a great question. I think
And
it's
does
one that a lot
anything
of people
become
struggle with.
meaningful?
No. Yeah,
Is
right.
anything meaningful without the option of there's going to be some bad consequences if I do it incorrectly? You lose. There's no, as far as I can tell, there's no good movie where the hero does something bad and then there's no consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It's meaningful. When I do something wrong and I'm punished for it, there's a meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
Games wouldn't be fun if there wasn't, a winner or a loser in it. That's
Yeah.
really oversimplifying it.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, God's chastisement is to restore us, right? It's never just because he's upset and just wants us to be hurt. It's mostly because he wants to get your attention, right?
So, Lance, do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I think it's good to keep searching. I wouldn't say give up at this question. I feel like it was one that was easily to discuss about. And understanding the character traits of God are important, and just seeing how they interact with one another. But him creating a universe with free will that as a consequence has suffering is a loving thing to do. And it doesn't negate his power, it doesn't negate his knowing, doesn't negate his loving nature. So
Hey, well, that was great. Dustin, I've been praying for you, and I hope that we helped answer one of your questions. We're going to keep answering questions here. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you want to keep exploring culture from a biblical perspective. Please submit your questions or any videos that you want us to react to @KingsCultural on Instagram. We're going to be going through them all. Check out the free ebooks that I wrote. They're linked down in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.